Chilly here with Sirius Taurus Moon, and this is a Mercury hour Saturn day. I'm continuing my series about how much does it cost to have a baby in Israel, and I'm gonna conjoin the Orgasmic birthing series, the inspiration from the the people that actually bring children, that what they birth is actually children. So mundane, and I'm going to um, try and see how that parma. So in the previous episode, I was basically walking through. Um, oh, and there's baby rooms here, so let's go see a baby room. Working, tending to my inner child, and I was checking to see how much does it cost to even have like the first clothes of children, and then it was Disney there. And I'm like, wait, Disney's that thing from MK Ultra with the Epstein series? No, 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 no. But I didn't know about the one that didn't have Disney there because I don't know where do they source their thing and what's happening and how do they run a business and how do they do that with the fact that the Epstein series had been like this chronicle toenail fungi that infiltrated so many systems. So now I'm gonna take a look at basically a baby cradle. Now I have 3 kittens. I might actually buy something here because this is the kind of stuff that's very good for kittens. Um, and again, I'm seeing the Disney Mickey Mouse. Now, for those who wonder about the Disney basically is an observation thing. There are many things there, but they're basically also the power of the gaze. And there is something that projects onto um, let's say when they're using dark occult or people that have astral incarnation or they use it in tech interface, basically projecting gaze. And that can create wounds of inadequacy that can also create good things, by the way. And it's usually a combination of both because the perspective from which those things operate is control rather than natural growth and love, then they will be good in imitating natural growth and love, but also there's the issue of control. And another thing that's to do with the infants is, of course, they do some sort of like a personality cult thing where they get into the consciousness of the baby and they could they could basically begin to try to mind control the child. And there is an over sexualized issue around that. Um, Annika Lucas talked about the agenda, that she actually heard people talking about the agenda. I don't know how many people experience that as like children or infants. I'm sure there's way more than we know. So I'm going to try and see. Well, they have various options here. One is like a little, almost tiny, is fit for one baby, and this is like 500 shekels, which would be around $120. Or if we actually have the almost trade in, something like that, 100, around $120. Um, and then if people have like twins, that they can either double that, or if they want them together, but they actually have a one that's 400, but again, that's Disney. Um, I don't think, I mean, there is one that looks nice, and this also, like, it's both the bed and then it's probably have this mattresses. Um, the self tetra diapers. I don't know. Like, this is like for, it's, this is taking people back to where I was born in like 1984, and that's before that. Like, we already had diapers. It's definitely more systemic, I think, if they can get it to not be like polluted. And these cost, no, they don't have the pricing here. They don't have the pricing here. Um, then they have the entire Disney thing of if you can dream it, you can do it. Um, yeah, lovely quotes. And so, yeah. So I found this kind of posable bed that is in $120. Um, so far, okay. I think this item is manageable. Um, then they have the basically then it's where it's getting crazy because people have to change the sheets. So and they have this one, but I'm not sure. This is like 3 sheets for a baby bed. No price. Why am I not seeing any? There's no. It is priceless indeed, but they don't have any prices. Oh, 164. So this one, if they have three, and that thing probably needs to be changed quite often. So like at least for a week, that would be like 3 packages. So 164, and that would be 165. Um, yeah, the Google way of doing calculation, and it actually goes into AI. I love it. Look how much it thinks. Okay, now we're gonna transmute this 1,320 shekels into dollars. I think I gave a name of a disease. Neurodivergence kicks in. 451, $452. No, ASL is the name of the disease. Holistic Health Practitioner. Um, so, what do we got? We got $450. And let's see if we have a calculator here. Yeah, no, not the calendar, calculator. So we had $450 plus, let's say $120. That would be the bed, and then we had the $500 of the like clothes and something like $150, $1,500 for like a wagon. So that's already this is something that is actually, I think, the first entry level of like clothes, something to sleep on, wagon, and um, the bed sheets. So that would be $2,570. So those are, I believe, would be the one-time payments, which would be the wagon and the bed. But then it takes how long for a baby to grow out of their clothes? And then we're already beginning to ask the question of being able to have enough clothes for the growing baby. Um, and in the meantime, that can take like I don't know how is it in the first month, but it can be like within a year, people would already have changed probably a couple of sets of clothing, and then within like 3 years, the entire economy can change. So particularly in these particular 3 years, um, so people are expected to double the population by 2036, when they might be able to have the, let's say, initial $2,500 after the, because probably the states are going to fund for all the IVF stuff. For many people, that's the case. They do subsidize. I think I know a family where the mother sold like her car or something like that for her daughter to have a baby from IVF. But then there's like the desire of the regimes for people to have babies. But when it comes to actually raising them, I think if we take it back to the boomers, which is the best comparison we have for a policy of encouraging children, particularly outside of like Israel, and we see that there wasn't so much. There was a lot of daycare, which created a lot of Epstein dossiers or Detroit dossiers, because that was the time where Mark Dutroux began to kidnap children. Think about it, the parents would work, and then the children just had to get by, and it wouldn't be too difficult to kidnap one. So, particularly if there would be cool things to do, and if somebody angry, then avenging society or whatnot. Um, and this is something that they seem to plan on doing with the baby boom, which is why, if we conjoin the actual realistic preparations that are also fiscal preparations to have children in a changing market, and the dossiers that are global. So when I'm talking about the dossiers, everybody knows European is kind of like, it's kind of like the Great War, where everybody knows it's World War One. But in Europe, they understand it from the monuments of the Great War, and and Americans are usually thinking about World War II more. So it's kind of like the Epstein and the Detroit dossiers are all encompassing. I was saying the dossiers, and Europeans like, yeah, the Detroit dossiers, but the Americans are like, yeah, the Epstein files. So although both were global, anyway. The Michelle Nihul dossiers, nobody would understand what I'm talking about except for me and Annika Lucas. So, thank Michelle. Um, now, this is where this awareness is prompting us to think about orgasmic birthing as the rest and labor pattern that allows for sustaining success. And both business-wise, because people are going to have, to be a happy parent, one has to be living a life that is actually happy. Children are lovely. We have 3 kittens, but they are amazing. They bring a lot of joy to our lives. That being said, but it's all around, let's say, the children, then there would be something that expects that to yield more than it can. Okay, it is like there's the joy the children bring, amazing, but it's also for these children to be happy. Then there need to be kind of like a happy life around, and the orgasmic pattern, the orgasmic birthing pattern is about dealing with transition in life, which can eventually grow into a sustainable. What I mean sustainable is not, a static, but actually be able to go through life transitions with joy and pleasure, birthing something new. That is also pertaining to job life satisfaction, to career, and this is where we absolutely want to think about conjoining these things because they're absolutely necessary. I mean, we can't expect, if I think about my parents' parents, then my grandfather had, let's say, a grocery store, and then my grandmother was the main breadwinner, um, and and then my mom grew kind of like nature child, kind of like the boomers. Children had to take care of themselves, and then she wanted to travel, so she sold encyclopedias and traveled. Um, but then when I grew up, it wasn't as easy to do these things, and in fact, we were selling my mother's book door to door. Then suddenly we had money to travel, and again, it's not a lot of money, but it was something that, with camping sites and with sleeping at gas stations, which is normal it's normal in Europe. I don't know if not everywhere. For example, in Israel, it's nearly impossible. In Greece, there are many places that was nearly impossible. Um, but this was something that was still feasible, but already, like, how should I say that? It was something that was considered. Let's say it would not be safe for me to try to sell encyclopedias door to door today. Um, and um, and when it comes to the patterns that have changed, it's exactly this work-life satisfaction or work-life balance that is stemming from the erosion of life energy when people weren't aware of, let's say, if my parents jumped from, the after-war children to marrying from love, or to have a child from love, then my generation is already paying attention to orgasmic birthing and how that facilitates a parental experience that is different, but also how it connects to work-life balance. Because a lot of the things that the lineage went through in terms of career were already the Epstein dossier's infiltration of many sectors, and the fact that we weren't in it, in the sense that not in the sense that we didn't have the chance to. They're really wanting people to be there, but and here's the thing: the Epstein dossiers, they're laying on a foundation of, let's say, Standard Oil. They're laying on the foundation of the Gilded Age, where it was the first time where people could have access to wealth outside of inheriting intergeneration. Now they were still looking for bloodlines, they were still looking for this, they were still looking for that, they were still marginalizing people and so on and so forth. Um, but that was basically lying on a wealth redistribution in a world where nearly all weddings, unless it was a matriarchal tribe, were at puberty. Now, that of course creates tremendous gender fights, um, because a woman grows and she's like, well, try, going to work like everyone, and but there's something that doesn't sit, or the relationship satisfaction, they don't fit. And for the women that were wed as girls, suddenly, my grandmother would threaten that she would leave the house or that she would commit a suicide. And I actually did not enter a relationship for fear that I don't want to put my partner in a position where I might want to unalive myself, or I couldn't commit. It was a commitment to life. And orgasmic birthing facilitates that commitment to life because there is life. It's not about transmuting pain to power, which, by the way, there's always, of course, pain transmutes to power in the sense that, yeah, I could look at the things that I've gone through as, frame them as just attempts to traffic me, or even basically the ritual abuse that was since infanthood. I could also frame that as, okay, that was how, let's say, the Epstein dossiers or the Detroit Epstein dossiers were managing with wealth and life energy, and and innovate on that, because it's like, hey, they were doing that for wealth and power. Is a different notion of power, and wealth is actually wealthy. Actually, to heal from sexual boundary violation, takes out the excess that we consume and allows us to enjoy life and to have faith in life. Now, now, when we're thinking about having another generation of baby boomers, the the juxtaposition of that and the many tendencies to reconnect, let's say, with tribal or with matrilineal lineages, or um, anytime the world changes, there's expected an up jump not only in human rights but also in being in even more harmony with nature. Now, when people say, "Oh, but we were way more in harmony with nature before the industrialized revolution," no, we weren't. No, we weren't. Inuit women did not have a choice of when they will have a baby. It's a natural. It was orchestrating the life in a way that was not optimal, but was managing with nature. Certain things are lost, but then after modern society, when we talk about suicide or unaliving oneself and the connection to sexual trauma, it's a modern society thing, not the sexual traumas. So more people are um, aware of the changes within and the changes outside in the world. The face, or the face that would be one face to the public and one face to, let's say, international affairs, that is being eroded as well. Um, so, and this is where the very thinking of, um, let's say, creating a baby boomers, then trafficking all of them, and creating kind of like another Epstein dossiers, that runs into people that actually begin to feel, even if they don't know, they begin to feel something is weird, that something is strange. That they're expected to run their business model in a way that does not really scraping the surface. That they're expected to run themselves like an organized crime to make a living, where the very reason they wanted to be entrepreneurs was to live a life that is better than the corporational life. People expect more rights, better life, and if we talk about changing the way we make a change, that's the thing. That's orgasmic birthing. And it's not something that is of commodity in the way that we used to think about economy. Because it's something that, while it definitely connects to wealth, is not tradable. And this is where we have the clippial revolution, where they pay attention to things being under subscription that are not compatible. The business model is not compatible with what this service or the product is. Well, there's certain things we can, for example, we can subscribe and unsubscribe from a favorite magazine. Now, definitely we paid attention that there are certain things to do with relations that require the ability to kind of like unsubscribe, so to speak, if I talk about how people live in Iceland when it comes to children and marriage and the ability to kind of like, they can grow a child with someone and but they don't have to stay together, or which allows space, and also the notion that it's normal to have a DNA test to make sure that people are not relative. Where in other countries, like Israel, is not even allowed to have DNA test without the court order. And it's kind of odd. So when people think about orgasmic birthing, I think that the more we implement this notion of orgasmically birthing, in the sense that, no, it's not about transmuting pain to power. No, just that. It's beyond that. It's actually having way more pleasure and rest in our lives and joy in general. It's actually having the time to honor our inner child, erotic and unerotic self in general. Also where we are at work. Also definitely at home. And here's the thing, when people swipe it under the rug, nothing actually compiles. No solution is actually suffice, because the sense of life is lost. And this is where everything that was sort of instated on that sense of life being lost begins to erode, begins to dissolve. Because it's an undying truth. And it's not something people can be deprived of without it having severe implications. That no matter how much people work, no matter how much people heal, it's kind of like it's kind of like the one thing that changes everything. And even the people, if I take a look at the boomers, they say, "Oh, we turned out fine," but then they retire, and then they actually need somebody that can assist them. And the world is the way that the world is. It's not about shame and blame. It's just looking at, okay, so how do we move from this point on? Reinstating and embodying teachings from orgasmic birthing preparation can very well be a point of interference. Ketu Magha is purging what's not aligning with that expectation. It means that if we think about, let's say, succeeding in life, then of course we're thinking also about if we're thinking about succeeding in life, and of course we're thinking also about what is success for us and so on and so forth, then of course it is dreaming big, of course it is living a life that is joyous, of course, and orgasmic birthing facilitates that, incarnates that. Of course it's feasible. Then there are gonna be a lot of people in a lot of industries, all the industries that Epstein infiltrated, not just the entertainment industry, not just big media, that are going to be embarking or orgasmically birthing that level up in life that's going to be in those sectors, changing those sectors, changing, and in those locations. I found through astrology that mimosa is a good herb for, let's say, my moon or my Mercury, and then, Côte d'Azur have natural mimosas. Wait a second, I wasn't thinking about that location previously. I don't know if it's good for my astrocartography line, but maybe it's good. But maybe there's something there that there's a period in my life that I need to be there to curate with that mimosa herb in the environment where it grows. That's thinking normally. Wait a second. There's a girl that does locational astrology that opens a course where people can take on an actual business, and I'm like, living in certain places and seeing how the energy is definitely something that I don't see myself, let's say, not committed to. And facilitating life changes as orgasmic birthing can very well be something that comes in union with that. And there are many places in the world where I see a place, my Rao is actually around, I don't know, North Norwegian. I'm not here to take over the land of the Sami people or anything like that. But nor am I to convert with that particular way of life. I might take a little bit from here, a little bit from there, and create my life. Because there's a reason why we lost the world of the old, because the world of the old is not suffice, and there's a reason why modern life are not suffice for us. So um, there's going to be a booming of generations that seek a different environment in the island, in the vacay spots, in the real estate. And just like every common person, because these are the common people now, they don't want to be worried about their child being kidnapped to a feeding. And the fact that wealth that is actually wealthing is not rapey from either side of the equation. Okay, people, even people that take a look at, let's say, the entertainment industry, and they say, well, they don't want to be the Saturn return kids that unalive themselves, supposedly unalive themselves. Um, and so each and every industry has to contain life, and that together is the entire economy and the banking associated with it. So lots of thoughts. Um, and I'll see you in the next episode.